I think they just don't give that relationship a chance, or like the
That's a good-
openness that it needs to be given.
That's
is,
very
is my
interesting.
point of view on that one.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I have a question from somebody on Twitter, and since you watch these shows, do you feel that these ZTV type series perpetuate this type of thinking that remarriage shouldn't occur, or that people who are divorced or are widowed should not remarry again, or do you think it's moving away from that?
No, I think I think it's moving away from not when you say moving away, is it like letting them think that this is a good thing to do?
Yeah, I guess. What do you think? Where is it
I think
headed?
it's a good thing to do. I think even with all the drama element and the histrionics surrounding around it, I think when they pick up a cause, I think it actually makes us sit and talk. For example, look at us.
That's such a good point.
We are sitting and talking about it.
Right.
Okay, even if it's for 10 days, 20 days, or even 30 days, at least, like 500,000 people who watch the show might be thinking about it.
It'll
right?
it'll get you to think.
It'll get you to think, at least. That's the way I see some of these shows. Of course, there are some shows that are just purely over the top that I don't watch, but I typically kind of tend to go towards the ones that have an issue, that are trying to think about an issue, even for a short span of time.
Right.
Even if they deviate from it at a later stage, at least they started off with a good intention. It gave us time to think about it.
It plants a seed.
It's exactly. It plants a seed. It gives rise to all these forums and people are talking about it, right?
Right.
And something comes out of it. So I've heard about shows that have actually there were women who were getting abused, and they actually watched a couple of shows, and they actually got the courage to go complain against their husbands.
That's fantastic.
And vice versa.
Wow.
Against their wives.
Incredible.
And they actually got away with, having them punished for what they were doing. So I still think it's good.
Right.
I still think it's good. I just want the people to watch these shows more objectively, but not get too involved in it, where it's taking you away from the reality
Definitely.
of it. But you will get a lot of information out of it. That's my take on these shows.
That's such a great point,
Yeah.
and it almost comes down to, it doesn't matter how you get that message.
Yeah.
As long as that you're reaching people and getting them, like you're saying, to think about it and question how they feel and why, and open their minds to a different reality.
Right, exactly. And Priyanka, I'm just going to stay online if you're still there. I just want to kind of get a little man's perspective on this. And Sonal is here. Hope I said your name right.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you. Folks, we have Sonal here, who happens to be Parijat's better half, her humsuffer. So let's see what his thoughts as a man, from the guy's perspective. What do you feel about remarriage?
I mean, I think I agree completely with what you're saying, that it's not something that we should decide. Anyone other than the person going through it should decide. It should just be their decision based on their personal situation, what they've been through, and what they want to do next.
So what would you, I mean, just hypothetically think about you getting remarried. Okay. So what would you go through as a man? I mean, what thoughts would you go through to come to the decision thinking, okay, I am ready to do this? What factors are helping you make that decision?
I don't know. I guess it's hard to imagine being in that situation. I think it would be like kind of I would imagine you're really moving on to a completely different stage of your life.
Right.
And I think if you really, if you ever feel like you're really in a different stage of your life, and you're really ready to kind of move on, then I think it would make sense.
Right. So, I mean, like you said, watching the shows and stuff, and I was talking to my friends at Rangmanch, and we were discussing the various couples that are there in various shows. I mean, I've noticed that a lot of these shows are weeding away from the teeny-weeny romance of, the 16s and the teenage things, and they kind of seem to go into the mature of middle-aged couples, finding love, and they got a lot of flack for it. I mean, I'm thinking, why? What the heck? Why not? They are humans too. What happens if you are 18 years old, or if you're 38 years old and you found love?
Right.
And you want to, have a life with it. So a lot of times, a lot of these shows seems to be trending towards a little more mature age group. We don't have any more of those. I don't know if you remember in India, all these Fauji and all those things. I don't know if you've seen them, but
No.
we grew up in a bunch of these college romantic TV shows and things like that. It's very rare where we had, a much more mature subject shows and things like that. But, people have been getting a lot of flack for it. But I like the trending where people are actually being more progressive now,
Yeah.
on one side, trying to come up with shows like, middle-aged people are also humans and they can,
Right. Absolutely. And this is happening so much more often than we think. People, when they hit middle age, their children move out of the house. Divorces do happen with adult children.
Correct.
We're not just talking about children who are 6, 7, 8 years old.
Right,
And
right.
the parents realize they're not compatible. It can happen 20, 30 years into a marriage and you
Exactly.
realize, where do we go wrong? We're not the same people anymore.
No.
And it's so important to make note of the fact that adult children go through the same experience that young children do when they find out their parents are getting divorced, and then also when they're getting remarried, and
Right.
that it happens.
Yes.
And even if you're 50, 60, 70 and you
Right.
want to find a new partner, it's real. It
It's real.
happens.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. I mean, is it difficult for people in India to make the decision of getting remarried versus people who are living away from all those pressures in the US to make the decision? It's two different extremities.
Right. My understanding is it's difficult on both sides. I don't think living in India versus living here is any easier or more difficult. I think the types of pressures that exist are different. Possibly in India, if you're living around your family or you're maybe living with your in-laws or something, there might be a much more pressure to stay married or
Right.
something like that. Out here, if you think about it, if you get divorced, you're kind of on your own. And it's
Right.
a really, really difficult position to be in. It's something that people consider very strongly before
Right.
they make that decision. In addition to the fact that wherever you are, people have opinions. Here,
Yeah.
India, anywhere else in the
Right.
country, in the
Right.
world, there are judgments and there are a lot
yeah.
of miscommunication, misunderstanding about what divorce and remarriage is. And I think anywhere you are, you feel that.
Right. It's a interesting word you said, misunderstanding. Like in this show right now, she happens to be a divorcee, but then when the alliance is being discussed, they get into misunderstanding that she actually happens to be a widow. Obviously, up until now, it's not coming to light.
Right.
She just realizes that this misunderstanding has come. She realizes that her parents have hid this fact from her because they're so hell-bent on wanting her to have this second chance at life, a dad for their grandson. So all they see is, my daughter needs to get remarried and have a fantastic life and things.
Sure.
But hiding the fact that she is divorcee, so everyone thinks that she is a widow, right? So how do you think that's going to affect if it comes into light once she's already married and the in-laws come to know that she's actually because they were dead set against getting a widow as a daughter-in-law.
Right.
No, they were dead set against getting a divorcee. But yeah, exactly.
Well, I think aside from what the in-laws would think, I would imagine her spouse would be pretty upset.
That's exactly my point. I mean, if I'm thinking only in tune with the show, the spouse happens to be one of the most mature guys. So I don't think, yes, he will be upset. Yes, he will feel betrayed. He'll probably come and say, why did you not tell me ahead of time? We could have dealt with it. But I think the more baggage or the more pressure comes from the in-laws. And you typically, with the dramas happening, there's always this one person in every family who's the black sheep. And,
Has to be.
There has to be one, right? So what's going to happen
Right.
when this comes into light. So my perspective on it is like, okay, at least the spouse needs to know.
Right. I completely agree.
At least then they're starting off on the same footing.
Right.
Hey, Priyanka, you can still hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, what do you think? What do you think about what's happening on the show right now? do you feel that Yash needs to know that Aarti is a divorcee and not a widow before they get married?
Yes, definitely. He needs to know it. Because Yash and Aarti, they are the one who are getting started.
Right, right.
No, they are the one getting into a relation, not the in-laws.
Right.
No, they should know each other.
Exactly.
Exactly.
She knows that Yash's wife died,
Yes.
so he should know. I feel he should know.
He
Yeah,
should know.
I
Right.
completely
I
agree.
completely agree too. And I hope to God that whoever is writing the script
More
Takes that into
Go ahead.
consideration.
takes that into consideration,
Yes,
puts that thing
relation.
before they do. Well, that's what I feel, especially in a remarriage. I mean, I think it has to be equal on both sides. Otherwise, it's going to be so hard to get that support.
Absolutely.
Because they're coming into a relationship with so many insecurities, low self-confidence, kids. I mean, it's not going to be an easy sailing for any one of these two going into the marriage. So you want at
Exactly.
least to have, that full support for each other.
Yeah, that's the main foundation. And if the two of them are shaky in their
Right.
relationship, everything else around it is going to fall apart.
Exactly.
And if we think about what happens when there are kids in the picture, they are going to have a really hard time adjusting, even if they love their new step parent,
Yes.
and even if they're so happy for their own parent. In the end, it's a huge transition.
Right.
And if that new marriage isn't stable and rock solid, these kinds of stressors could break that
Right,
uh,
right.
otherwise healthy relationship. You were asking about men's opinions. There's
Right,
Milap on Twitter mentioned that he doesn't think there's anything wrong with remarriage as long as it's what both partners want, and they don't do it just because they crave companionship.
Right.
And he also brings up a great point that the kids should be comfortable with it as well.
Exactly. And I think, and there is no right or wrong age for the kids to understand and adjust. I think every age it's going to be difficult when any new relationship comes
Exactly.
into it. So I guess you just have to kind of deal the best that you can do. So coming into with the point that Milap said on Twitter and us talking about it, do you think that it's advisable for a couple going into remarriage to go for counseling? Maybe is that even really necessary, or is it something as an option for them?
It's not always necessary, but it's a really great tool and a resource to have while you're making this huge change. It would be great if the two of them could go together and kind of work out a lot of the kinks in terms of their own relationship.
Correct.
I think we talked at the very beginning of the show about how important it is for each of those individuals to work through that baggage that they're coming in with.
Yes.
Just because they're divorced doesn't mean that their new partner should have to put up with all of that
Correct.
baggage. It's
Right.
each of their responsibilities to work through those hurts and those pains.
Yes.
And then from there, it's a great opportunity to have like a third party, a mediator or a counselor, just help blend these new families together,
yeah.
slowly bring the kids in, some maybe even bring some of the in-laws in if it's necessary.
But see, that's a fantastic idea, as we're talking about, getting in a counselor or a psychiatrist or, anyone
Right.
to help them out. But how feasible or how open-minded are Indians in India to really think that, are they progressive enough to think that just going for counseling is really okay versus, oh my God, I'm going in for counseling. There's nothing wrong with me. Why the heck am I going in for counseling? And we're talking about not the couple getting into the marriage, but the family,
The family.
the in-laws or the mother. You know what I'm saying? Those are the
Right.
ones who really seem to affect a whole lot of things.
Yeah, I think that stigma, it's even here, quite honestly,
yeah.
I think it's everywhere. And, maybe a counselor is not the perfect person. You can go to your temple and have the Guruji there help you out, go
Right.
to your church and have the priest help you out. Any kind of third party, if everyone's open to it, can serve as that mediator and help bridge that gap and blend these new families together.
Well, yeah. See, that's the hard part, I think, and that's why I think it's so much more hard for me to, or I just feel much more frustrated or much more driven to kind of get these people together and say,